I have a TikTok channel, and people watch it. Not many, like 8 people. But I really have 2 jobs. I'm a university administrator where I use my PhD to help shape the experience for students of color, and then I write romance novels. Don't let the colorful, very cartoony covers fool you. They're those kinds of romance novels. There's heaving, there's throbbing, and there's very smart women getting their happily ever after. I'm an author. I love it. It's given me so much meaning in my life, and I want to spend time today talking about how I got there. I knew philosophically when I wrote a book that people would read it. I was not ready for people to read it. And it's still something I'm getting used to, seeing my book, my name, my face sometimes, in outlets like this, in places where I go to get book information or gossip. And that has been a really amazing thing. But I didn't start there. I started here. I was a quiet kid. I was a rule follower. I got good grades. K-12 education was built for me. I'm really good at raising my hand, or I used to be. I was not a shy kid. I had a lot to say, but I didn't think that anybody would want to hear it. I taught myself to be in the background, and I stayed there until I got to college, when I don't know why, I applied to be an orientation leader. And they taught me how to do public speaking. They gave me a microphone and a walkie-talkie, and yes, those are pleated shorts. And for the first time, I felt confident that what I said might be listened to. That when I communicated, that was actually a skill that I had. So with that newfound confidence, and like many overachievers before me, I went on to graduate school. I got a master's degree from the University of Georgia. I got a PhD from Iowa State University here, both in education. I moved through the ranks in student affairs, which I'm still doing. I mean, not really the ranks, like it's pretty slow, but moving through different positions in higher education. And I thought I was gonna be a dean or a vice president. I was gonna write tomes that would change the field. I don't know if they changed the field, but I wrote some. I researched student veterans of color, faculty and staff, diversity, equity, and justice education. I've done a lot of writing academically, but while I was writing all of those things, I was reading something very different. I was reading romance novels. And they were those kinds of romance novels. These were a few of my favorites at the time. But as many a smart woman before me knows, that's not what smart women read. And so on my Kindle, I had a copy of The Goldfinch, if anybody's ever read The Goldfinch. And so if anybody said, hey, what are you reading? I'd say, I just started The Goldfinch, which was technically true because I'd read the first page. In 2016, I was still reading romance novels, and I had my beautiful son here. And I was buried. I was buried in momming and work and research projects, and I'd lost connection with myself. And so one night when he went to bed, because I raised a good sleeper, thank the Lord, I started writing a short story. And I thought it would just be a fun diversion for myself to reconnect with that creativity. I kept doing it every night, and that short story became my debut novel, How to Fail at Flirting. This is a picture I took on its first birthday. This is the large print edition and the UK edition and the US edition. And I wrote this book, and I edited this book, and I spent years working on this book, and eventually it sold to a subsidiary of Penguin Random House, and became my debut novel. In 2020, there was a little pandemic going on at the time. It was an interesting time to publish a book, but since then I've published 5 others, and I have 3 coming out next year. I want to talk a little bit about what I've learned from all of those. After my debut, How to Fail at Flirting was the fastest way to fall. I had 4 come out this year, which was too many, which was The Love Connection, The Misconnection, and Do You Take This Man, which just came out. And then Love and Other Flight Delays is one of the 3 I have coming out next year. Some of the lessons I've learned that have been really important from that. One is that stories hit different. Stories are, I think, the best way to communicate information, no matter what we're talking about. My first novel, the heroine is a survivor of domestic violence. This book has been out for 2.5 years. I still get messages weekly from strangers telling me what it meant to them to see themselves on the page. And that theme really runs through everything. The second is that body positivity is a verb. I'm a fat woman now. I have been my whole life. I probably will be forever. It's just how I roll. And I wrote a book about a fat woman. There's a scene in the book where she stands in front of a mirror and she's cataloging herself. And in that first draft, she was like, I like this, I don't like this. And I was like, wow, that's empowering. And my friend read it and said, why does she have to not like things? That was a total paradigm shift for me. And that has worked its way into every facet of my life. I'm talking too much, but this is me at the LA Times Book Festival, and all these people were in line to see me, and that just blew my mind. There's a better way to tell that story, but it doesn't fit in 20 seconds. Being at the center of attention is not a bad place to be. It can actually be a really amazing piece. I, like many others, have gotten the advice my whole life that you should help others before helping yourself, but I didn't think that actually applied to me until it was 2021. I was exhausted like everybody else, and I decided to take a little trip to work on my book that took place in an airport. I spent 4 days in first-class accommodations, like nice hotels, completely by myself, and it was amazing. I was recharged, I was reborn, and I'd reconnected with myself. Which is important because I am not a nice person. I'm a funny person, I am an awesome person, but I am not a sweet person. And I love writing characters getting back to my true self that aren't necessarily sweet. This is RJ Brooks. She's a divorce attorney. She's the character in my book that just came out. And she suffers no fools. She's a tough black woman in a field that demands it. And she has been a very divisive character. People love her, they hate her, much like many of us find when we are not sweet, when we are not immediately warm and caring, but we are competent and get things done. And it's been so important for me to write characters like myself. Same with this one, and it's so important to see ourselves on the page. Gia Price is a professor in this book, and she's also bisexual, and I got to write that character at the same time as my own coming out journey, which was so powerful to put this person on the page and to see myself. This book was the hardest book I've ever written, maybe not as hard as the one I'm writing right now, and that was because I was trying to write the wrong thing. I was following a plan that I'd set out for my life and for my book that I thought was perfect, and it wasn't working, and I just kept hitting a wall. And eventually I learned, if I'm hitting the wall constantly, I'm probably trying to do the wrong thing. This was the last slide that I added, and that's okay that it's okay to self-promote. I'm Midwestern nice, y'all. It seems very gauche, and I'm feeling very awkward right now that I just put buy links on a QR code behind me. But something I love about romance Twitter, which has become my home, is that if you post about your book and you don't post a buy link, somebody posts it for you, because we promote our work. And the last piece of advice, the last thing that I've learned, is if there's something you want to do, just go do it. Write the book. Even if you don't know how to do it, because I didn't. The only thing a first draft has to do is exist. And somebody is waiting for your words. If nobody else, it might be you. Thank you.